It's official. Affordable housing in Australia is being pushed out of existence, and almost nobody is talking about it. Properties that regular families could afford just a couple of years ago are now completely out of reach, and it's happening faster than anyone predicted. After 23 years of investing in property and over the last 9 years helping over 500 clients build their wealth through property, I can tell you firsthand, this is not just a normal market cycle. There are specific forces working together to eliminate affordable housing, and some of them might shock you. The scary part is that most people seem to believe this is just a temporary market condition and things will get better in the future. But what if it's not temporary? What if affordable housing is being systematically destroyed on purpose? Well, in today's episode, I'll reveal the real reason affordable homes are disappearing so quickly, who benefits when regular families can't afford to buy, and what this all means for your financial future. So let's begin by looking at what's really driving this affordability crisis. Well, it turns out there are several forces working together, and most people don't realize just how deep this problem goes. Let me break down what's actually happening behind the scenes. Number one, it's getting more expensive to build properties. People seem to think that housing is expensive because of land prices or greedy developers. Yet, if we look at this chart from Dr. Andrew Wilson, we can see the cost to build has increased 58.1% on average over the last few years. And according to Ray White, it's now taking 50% longer to build a property. So that means your interest costs on that block of land while the property is being built is also going to be higher. So construction costs in Australia have exploded. Materials, labor, regulation, compliance costs, everything that goes into building a home costs significantly more than it did even a couple of years ago. Now, when builders are unable to build affordably, there's no such thing left as an affordable home. So understand that new housing supply, that's not going to solve the affordability problem anytime soon. If you're looking to buy, focus instead on existing properties that were built when costs were lower, as these represent much better value in today's market. And look, if you want to get really specific about which properties are actually the best investment for your particular portfolio, you can book a free strategy call using the link below or by scanning the QR code on your screen. We'll help you get an understanding of what areas and what properties are currently working so you can make an informed decision before you buy. And expensive construction, mind you, that's just one piece of the puzzle. There's an even more fundamental problem that's making everything worse, and that is we just don't have enough properties. People seem to assume that, okay, if housing is unaffordable, well, the government will just slow down immigration or the government will build more properties to quickly fix the shortage. Yet, according to the latest data from the Australian Bureau of Statistics, or the ABS, which covers up to the end of the March quarter of 2025, annual net migration is currently 316,000. Now, yes, this is a slowdown significantly lower from the peak, which was 555,800 in the September quarter of 2023. It's still over 30% higher than what it was before the pandemic, as you can see in this chart. So the fact is, we have a massive housing shortage and immigration is still continuing at well above our long-term average levels. Simple supply and demand economics means this shortage is going to continue to force both rents and prices up across multiple areas around Australia. Even areas that maybe weren't considered expensive before, even there, prices are rising rapidly. So don't wait for more supply to be built. It's not coming fast enough. Focus instead on areas where you can afford to buy right now, which have the right capital growth fundamentals, and buy there as soon as you can afford to, before that window closes forever. So many people seem to think that it's the expensive properties that go up the most in value, because that's often what you see in the media. So they seem to assume that cheaper properties, they're safer, they're going to stay affordable for longer. But data from Domain shows that house prices in the bottom quarter of the market, so the cheapest 25% of properties, they've recorded more capital growth than the most expensive 25% of properties over the past 3 years in most of our capital cities. So that means the properties that everyday Australians can actually afford, those priced between, say, today, $700,000 to maybe $950,000, they are the properties experiencing the biggest price jumps. We're looking at potentially $100,000 increases in the next 12 months alone in many of these markets. So if you're looking to buy an investment property in that entry level range, which is essentially anything below $1 million, understand these markets aren't going to be affordable for long. These aren't luxury markets, mind you. These are the properties in areas that working families buy, they can afford to buy, and they're moving fast because people don't want to miss out on buying their own home. And just when you think it couldn't get more frustrating, the government steps in with what they call help. And these first home buyer incentives are backfiring. You see, people think government incentives like first home buyer grants and schemes, they make housing more affordable. Yet studies done on these sorts of government first home buyer incentives on a global scale since the year 2000 have shown that every time something like this happens, they force prices up by around $50,000 or more. So these incentives actually push up prices faster. Now, think about it. When the government gives people more money to spend on housing, what do sellers do? They're simply going to raise their prices to capture that extra money. It's just, again, basic economics. Increase demand, but don't increase supply, and prices rise. So don't expect the government scheme to make housing genuinely affordable. If anything, because it's a more expansive scheme than anything we've ever seen in Australia, it's likely to increase prices more than any other similar scheme has done in the past. Now, that's including former Prime Minister Scott Morrison's scheme just after the pandemic that forced prices up over 20%. Meanwhile, people keep saying, don't worry, builders will just build more homes. We've got lots of vacant land in many areas around Australia. Well, there's a serious problem with that logic. Builders can't keep up. People assume that high prices will motivate builders to construct more homes quickly, which will eventually bring prices down. The problem with that theory is that builders are hitting capacity limits. They can't find enough skilled workers. Materials are expensive and sometimes unavailable, and the approval processes still take too long. Even if the builders wanted to flood the market with new homes, they physically can't build them fast enough to meet demand. So don't count on new construction solving this housing crisis anytime soon. Instead, if you're looking to buy, focus on existing properties and understand that these supply shortages are likely to continue for years, keeping upward pressure on prices for years. But here's a part that might actually shock you the most about this whole situation. The government actually wants prices to keep rising. See, people think the government wants to make housing affordable for everyone, but the housing minister has openly admitted herself the federal government does not want property prices to fall. They want prices to keep rising, maybe at a slower rate. That's her only concession. So the government's position is clear. They don't want prices to fall. They want housing affordability to maybe improve slightly while prices continue climbing. Now, why is this the case? Well, if house prices start to fall, that would hurt existing homeowners who vote, banks who prop up our economy and they hold mortgages, and government revenues through stamp duty and taxes. These are just the facts of the Australian property market. Australia relies on the property market as a fundamental underpinning for its economy. So time to stop waiting for government policy to maybe bring prices down or make housing more affordable. The government has explicitly said they don't want prices to fall. This is actual official policy. It's not an accident. So now that you understand all the forces working against affordable housing, you might be wondering what this actually means for your financial future. Most people think they have time. They believe that they should maybe just wait and see what's going to happen to the property market. Maybe they could save a bit more. They seem to somehow think that housing affordability will maybe even get better or at least stay the same. The harsh reality, though, is that affordable homes, they're not disappearing by accident. They're being systematically eliminated through policy decisions, market forces, and government priorities. Every factor we've discussed is working against affordability: rising construction costs, supply shortages, immigration pressures, counterproductive incentives, builder capacity limits, and explicit government policy to keep prices rising. So what does this mean? It means that if you can afford to buy an investment property right now, you need to act as fast as you can without, of course, compromising on research or due diligence. Not every area is going to rise in value, but waiting, that could easily be the most expensive financial mistake you make. The pain of regret from not buying will be far worse. And in 12 months, you'll either be grateful you acted or devastated that you didn't. And look, if you don't want to figure this all out on your own, you don't need to. You can book in a free call with a member of my team. We'll walk you through how to get to the right markets, reduce your risks, and build wealth through property. The link is below in the description. So if there's one takeaway, it's this: affordable housing in Australia, it's not coming back. And waiting for things to settle down could end up costing you far more than you think. But once you've decided to act, the big question is how? Where do you start? What strategy actually works in today's market? And which areas actually have the most upside right now? Well, that's exactly what I cover in my next video. Click here to watch it now, and I'll walk you step by step through the smartest ways to invest this year.